6 out of every 10 American soldiers who fired a bazooka at German armor never made it home. The M1 bazooka was supposed to be the infantry's weapon against German tanks, but it became a death sentence for the men who carried it. When it entered service in 1942, the bazooka could penetrate 60 millimeters of armor. Sounds decent, but here's the problem. German tanks were rapidly evolving with thicker armor, and the sweet spot for penetration kept getting smaller and smaller. Let's start with the Panzer IV, the most common German tank American forces encountered. The early models had 50mm frontal armor, which the bazooka could theoretically defeat. But by 1943, the Panzer IV AUSFG rolled out with 80mm frontal plates. Do the math. Your bazooka round bounces off unless you hit specific weak points, the lower hull sides, the turret ring, the rear armor, or the engine deck. Now, you're not just getting close to a tank. You're maneuvering to hit a target area the size of a window while machine guns are tracking you. The Panther was even worse. 80mm of sloped frontal armor meant an effective thickness of over 140mm. The bazooka couldn't touch it from the front, period. Your only options were the side armor at 45mm or the rear at 40mm. Think about what that means tactically. You're an infantryman with a 5-foot tube on your shoulder trying to flank a 45-ton killing machine that moves at 30 miles per hour and has multiple machine guns specifically positioned to kill people like you. Then came the Tiger. 100mm of frontal armor, 80mm on the sides. Your bazooka penetrates 60mm under ideal conditions. You literally cannot hurt this tank from any frontal angle, and the side shots need to be perfectly perpendicular to the armor. Anything beyond a 90-degree impact angle and your round glances off. So you're waiting in a ditch or behind rubble, watching this monster roll toward you, knowing you need to let it pass, then sprint into the open to get a rear shot at the engine compartment. All while the tank's infantry support is scanning for exactly this threat. Now let's talk about the effective range issue, because this is where things get truly brutal. The M1 bazooka's maximum effective range against armor was quoted at 300 yards, but that's the sanitized training manual version. In combat reality, crews were engaging at 100 to 150 yards for any hope of a killing hit. German tanks, meanwhile, could engage infantry with their coaxial and hull machine guns out to 600 yards effectively, and their main guns could fire high-explosive shells at infantry positions from over 1,000 yards. The bazooka team itself was a tactical liability in ways most people don't realize. You needed 2 men minimum, a gunner and a loader. The gunner carried the launcher and 1 rocket. The loader carried 3 more rockets and helped prep the weapon. The M1 weighed 13 pounds empty, and each 2.36-inch rocket weighed 3.4 pounds. You're hauling around 25 pounds of equipment that screams, quote, priority target, unquote, to every German on the battlefield. German tank commanders were specifically trained to identify and eliminate anti-tank teams first. The doctrine was clear. Machine gun the bazooka crew before they get into range. Tank tactics involved having the hull gunner constantly scan the flanks while the commander watched forward and the loader operated the turret machine gun when needed. Panzer crews knew that American bazooka teams were their biggest infantry threat, so they hunted them aggressively. Here's what a typical engagement looked like. Your squad is holding a position in a French village, June 1944. You hear the distinctive rumble of a Panzer IV coming up the street. You and your loader move to a building corner. The tank is 200 yards out, still too far for a reliable hit. You wait 175 yards. The tank's machine gun opens up on a different position, suppressing your squad mates. 150 yards, you signal your loader. He taps the rocket into the tube and connects the wire. You flip up the sights, aim for the lower hull side as the tank angles around a destroyed truck. You fire! The backblast gives away your position instantly. A 30-foot cone of flame and smoke. The rocket flies true, but it hits the front drive sprocket, not the hull. No penetration. Now, the tank knows exactly where you are. The turret traverses. You've got maybe 3 seconds to reload or run. Your loader is already pulling another rocket, but the tank's coaxial MG starts chewing up the brick wall you're behind. Do you stay and try another shot, or do you run and lose the angle? This is the impossible decision bazooka crews faced constantly. Stay and fight with a weapon that needs multiple hits to guarantee a kill, or retreat and let the tank roll through your position. Many teams died because they stayed for that second shot. The backblast signature was a death marker. The M1 also had a critical flaw that got people killed, the electrical firing system. It used a battery-powered magneto to ignite the rocket motor. In the rain, in extreme cold, or after rough handling, misfires were common. There are documented accounts of bazooka gunners squeezing the trigger on a perfect side shot at a panther, hearing the click and nothing happening. Now you've exposed your position for nothing, and you're frantically checking the electrical connection, while 45 tons of German steel is rotating its turret toward you. The M9 bazooka, introduced in 1944, improved some things. Better weatherproofing, easier breakdown for transport, and slightly improved optics, but it still fired the same 2.36-inch rocket with the same penetration limits. You still needed to get suicidally close to kill the tanks you were facing. Let's talk about the tactical reality that made this even worse. German tanks didn't travel alone. They moved with infantry support, half-tracks with more machine guns, and often had Panzer Grenadiers riding on the hull. So when you're trying to maneuver for that close-range side shot, you're not just dealing with the tank. You're dealing with an entire combined arms element designed to protect that tank from people like you. The Bockage fighting in Normandy was a perfect example of this nightmare. Hedgerows created a maze where visibility was limited to 50 yards or less. Sounds perfect for ambushing tanks, right? Except German tanks would advance with infantry sweeping ahead, clearing potential bazooka positions. If you set up an ambush, you'd get maybe one shot before the supporting infantry suppressed or killed you. If you waited for a better angle, the tank would be past your position and your squad would be overrun. American doctrine tried to compensate. Bazooka teams were supposed to work in pairs, creating crossfire angles. One team would bait the tank into turning its vulnerable side to the second team. In theory, brilliant. In practice, coordinating this under fire with no radios while a Panzer is machine gunning everything that moves was almost impossible. The crew survival rate tells the story. Bazooka operators had casualty rates comparable to flamethrower troops, another weapon system that required getting fatally close to the enemy. In the European theatre, 60% of bazooka crews who engaged armour became casualties. Not just wounded, many were killed outright. When a tank's machine gun finds you, or when a high-explosive shell lands near your position, the odds aren't good. There were successful engagements, of course. Small American units held off German armour at places like Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge, using bazookas at close range in desperate defensive fighting, but those successes came at an appalling cost in lives. For every Panzer knocked out by a bazooka, multiple American soldiers died making it happen. The weapon improved later in the war. The M20 Super Bazooka with 3.5-inch rockets came too late to see action in World War II, but showed up in Korea. It could actually penetrate Tiger armor from the front, but that's the tragic irony. By the time American anti-tank rockets became truly effective, the men who needed them most were already casualties. What do you think? Could American bazooka teams have been more effective, or was the weapon outmatched by German armor? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's uncover the military history that doesn't make the textbooks. See you in the next one.